Good morning, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to you to our conference here in London today. This is probably one of the largest group of families of relatives with severe learning disabilities in this country for nearly 50 years. We are also delighted that it's not just families who are here. We have providers, we have a few from local authorities and people interested in policy in this area. So a welcome to you all as well. But this is a conference that has been organised and designed by families as part of the campaign that we as families have initiated called the Our Life, Our Choice campaign. And we believe we represent a small but significant number of people with a learning disability and or autism. And in the course of today, people will be referring to people with learning disabilities. And I think it's if people forget or don't always add and or autism, you should assume that any reference to people with learning disabilities includes people with a learning disability and or autism. And we are here because of people like my brother, who is up there on the left at a family gathering at Stanley Grange. For 35 years, he had an idyllic life in a village community founded by the charity CARE in Stanley Grange in Lancashire. He had a huge number of enriching social relationships each and every day, as well as being able to go out into the local communities of Blackburn and Preston and do a huge range of different activities. But 15 years ago, the site manager called all the residents into the community hall without telling their parents and told them all that they were going to be moved from their home of 20 or 30 years to live in the community. Fortunately, the vast majority didn't understand what she was saying. But for the tiny minority who did, they were utterly devastated. Indeed, one resident refused to spend the following weekend with their parents because they were worried that their home would be gone when they returned after a weekend with their mum and dad. And the care provider who were proposing the closure of Stanley Grange used CQC guidelines saying in relation to congregate settings as the justification for that closure. But we, the families of Stanley Grange, fought back and we managed to secure the future of Stanley Grange. We raised a loan of 1.6 million, or someone very kindly lent us 1.6 million. And now 10 years on, Stanley Grange is financially secure and has people waiting to come in the future. And this was achieved by two other family groups, and they are also well represented here today. The families of Furlong Close and the families of Ravenswood, who also were facing closure, who also had their care provider saying they wanted to move all the residents of those wonderful villages out to live in isolated houses in the local towns and cities. And those three amazing family groups saved their communities. And as a result of their work, we all came together and we formed the Our Life, Our Choice campaign. And the campaign is about choice. We are not saying that one type of care provision for people with learning disability is better than another. What we are saying is that all well-managed, well-led provision that provides good quality of life outcomes to people with learning disabilities and or autism should be available for those people. If a village community, for example, delivers poor outcomes for their residents, then that provision should either quickly improve or it should close. We are about ensuring that there is choice for all people with learning disability about where they live and how they are cared for. Now, this conference itself has been specifically designed not to be adversarial, but to enable us all to share experiences, understand different points of view, and explore possible solutions. Because solutions are really needed in this area. Due to this CQC policy about congregate settings and having no houses of more than 6 people, we estimate up to about 40 village communities have closed in the last 20 years. Certainly new villages are being prevented from opening. Local authorities are reluctant to commission placements in village communities. Many providers are cowed and unable to expand, and certainly reluctant to speak up publicly against CQC policy because they fear the consequences in future inspections. 2,000 adults still remain locked up in ATUs in this country. And on Tuesday, in advance of this conference, BBC Northwest Tonight asked me to do a piece there, and the Director of Operations of Future Directions, who run the care of Stanley Grange, told me that when we opened Stanley Grange, we had to sacrifice our workshops to have a more secure unit at Stanley Grange because we needed to make the place financially viable. 3 of the people who came from an ATU into that unit, as a result of the therapeutic environment at Stanley Grange, are now able not to need to live in a secure unit and now live in supported living in the community, and Stanley Grange and a village community was integral to enabling that to happen. So we have communities that can help enable large numbers of people who are still locked up in mental hospitals a route out of that situation. We have elderly parents as a result of this policy in their 80s looking after 50-year-old plus children. And we have others who have been moved into an isolated house in the town or a city and are living in loneliness and isolation. So that is why we need solutions. So let's get on to the conference, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome the chair of our conference, Baroness Cass. Hilary has had a very distinguished career in paediatric medicine. She is a former president of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, and her research interests have included autistic spectrum disorders and the care of children with multiple disabilities. And of course, most recently, she has been the chair of the Cass Review of Gender Identity Services in England, where she did such a magnificent job. And finally, Hilary is also the sister-in-law of Kim Collins, who lived at Ravenswood until she died a number of years ago. And Kim's father Morris and brother Paul are key members of our action group. So we are delighted, Hilary, for you to chair our conference. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And it's really a privilege to be here and to see so many of you. It is a fantastic gathering, and I really hope that this day will help us to generate positive solutions and to work out how we enable those solutions to move into action and cohesion amongst this group going forward. As you've heard, I've been involved in this area for a long time, actually from the age of 15 when I first started as a volunteer, one of the earliest volunteers for a group called Kith and Kids, which ran a program during the summer to support children who had a range of complex needs, learning disability and physical needs and autism. So this has been in my blood literally since I was 15, and at that time I didn't actually envisage a career in medicine, and I certainly didn't envisage that my experience with Kith and Kids would influence my career in medicine when I first went into it. And I was on the way to a sensible career in general practice when I discovered paediatrics during my GP training scheme. And then once I was in paediatrics, the obvious thing seemed to be to move into the area of disability. And And that's how I gradually ended up where you find me now. And as Dave has already said, families with young people and ultimately adults with learning disability have been both literally and metaphorically part of my family. During the early days at Kith and Kids, when it was getting tough recruiting volunteers, the obvious thing was to breed them. So my sister married Paul Collins, and that's how this became truly my family.